guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy, he's 34 years old, and he shares his story how a number of years ago he was engaged, all set to be married to the girl he thought was the love of his life, and then he got into a terrible accident. And lo and behold, that meant he was going to be bed-stricken for a while, in a wheelchair, and take a wild guess who took off like the freaking Roadrunner. You got it. And as you can imagine, this guy was just completely destroyed, both physically and emotionally. But our guy, like any guy, found his strength during his lowest point, turned his life around, and then years later, when he's on cloud nine, everything's great, guess who's back? You know it. And the theme of the whole thing is guys can find their strength during their lowest point to turn their lives around. And of course, they always come back. And I'm not going to say any more than that and let you guys discover more of the details in real time. However, before I get into it, I got a short story here about a guy who shares a revelation he had, or shall I say, a confirmation about female nature, when he got together with friends and girlfriends to watch some chick flick, and listen to this. He says, "Hey SSM, I've been listening to your channels for about 2 years now and enjoy the content. I have something for my brothers. You can refer to me as Cliff. At a gathering recently, my friends and their significant others were discussing favorite movies. One that was very popular with the women was The Devil Wears Prada. I asked a question that I wanted to share with my fellow brothers as a subtle way to get an insight into your women. A quick recap here. The Devil Wears Prada is a story of a young college graduate, Andy, who works for a boss bitch, Miranda, and Andy has a boyfriend, Nate. During the movie, Andy's character is pursued by an accomplished journalist and a Chad, Christian Thompson. Andy refuses Christian's not-so-subtle advances, and he's fully aware she has a boyfriend. Christian offers to review her writing portfolio and tells her it's not bad. Although refusing more advances, she does seem to appreciate the attention and validation of this accomplished journalist." Okay, sounds like actually real life. Now, I have no idea about this movie or the characters. I never saw it. 15 years ago, my girlfriend wanted me to watch it with her. I'm like, no. And it's like, what's next? You want me to watch, Broke Butt Mountain with you? This ain't happening. But anyhow, I know of the movie. I just don't know the fucking details. Anyway, as Miranda commands more time and attention from Andy, okay, Miranda's the boss, her relationship with Nate suffers. Andy's getting ready to go to Paris for a big fashion show that week, and Nate and Andy have an argument. They decide to take a break. While in Paris, Christian, who is also there, makes his move and seduces and beds Andy. Shocker! Take a break, and now she's hooking up with that guy, her coworker. Later that day, Andy decides she doesn't like what she has become and returns to NYC to pursue becoming a journalist. Near the end of the movie, she meets Nate and apologizes for her behavior and hints about getting back together. Nate seems receptive to rekindling their romance. No timeline is given, but you are led to assume that was not long after the week in Paris. Of course, I'm sure she never mentioned hooking up with that guy in Paris. Here's the question that triggered the unexpected replies from the women. Okay, here we go. Does Andy, the boyfriend, have an obligation to... does Andy, the girl... I hate when these girls have guy names. Does Andy, the girl, have an obligation to tell Nate about her wine-fueled one-night stand with Christian? There were two sides to the answers that we got. The technical side and the moral side. There is no argument that she was on a mutually agreed-upon break, so technically there was no cheating. That's what the girls were saying. Many women said that it was outside the relationship. When the guys mentioned that they appeared to have been a couple for a while, didn't she owe it to Nate, especially since they were drunk? It was unlikely that protection was used to tell him. Didn't she have a moral obligation to Nate to tell him? Many women, including ones I consider conservative, said no, if she told him, he would break up with her for good. Telling the truth would ruin the fairy tale ending. Shocker. No, just let that go, because they knew, even in a movie, the guy would, well, it's a movie, but the guy would have been like, see, I knew you were hot for that guy. You slept with him. We're not even broken up, and you're going to hooking up with that guy? Why'd you take a break with me? Gee, I wonder why. I was shocked at the decision to hide this to keep him from leaving. How are you watching me for 2 years and you were shocked at that? Come on, bro. If you haven't been dating that long, this is a sneaky way to get insight into your girl's morality and sense of right and wrong without directly asking her. Hope this helps someone. I think this is not going to really help someone. This is going to just reaffirm what we already know. Sneakiness. And finding loopholes and things like that to get around, conveniently not mentioning certain things that happen to get your way. And yeah, if a lot of guys knew the truth about things, they would have been whoosh, out of there. Okay, on to the real story, the comeback story here. This guy says, "Hello, SSM. My name is Jason. I'm 34 years old, and I've been a fan of your channel for some time. As such, I'd like to share with you how my fiancé of nearly 5 years ghosted me 2 months before our wedding, only to show up at my doorstep years later." 5 years, huh? However, before we get there, let's turn back the hands of time a bit. In 2010, I was a 20-year-old college freshman, and unlike many of my friends, I didn't go to college straight out of high school. I had to work to save up money. During this time, I lived with my dad at home to save money. I don't know if I'm considered R-pill, but my dad did instill within me a strong sense of masculinity. He always said that a man must respect himself first and foremost. Otherwise, no one would. That's good advice from your old man. Also, men don't cry in front of others. Men do what needs to be done and lick their wounds in private. Thank you. Exactly. But what do they show in the movies? What are they trying to tell young kids these days? It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to express your feelings. And no wonder we got a generation of many, not all, but many, a bunch of candy asses walking around and can't figure out why women are disgusted by them. Then you also have the same generation of girls being told to be strong, basically act like a guy, and they wonder why so many guys are repelled by their fucking G.I. Joe He-Man behavior here. My dad was a tough-as-nails Vietnam veteran. That makes sense. He never talked about his time in the war. Even so, I could tell it deeply affected him. His few friends told me he was a different person before he left, as all his early photos showed him laughing. Meanwhile, I had never seen him so much as smile. Well, probably what he saw and experienced and had to do, that changed him. My dad never, ever talked about details about the war. Ever. Ever. He told me some things later on in his 80s. My dad was way older, guys. I'm from a second marriage. But even then, because think about life then. You never know when your number's up. Every day you wake up, it could be your last. And then obviously the things that you saw, things that happened to your friends, things that you did, a lot of people it's like they put in a box and they put it in the closet and lock it away forever. And some guys can't ever get past that. The problem was he internalized everything and stopped being social. This may have led to my mom leaving us, so it was just my dad and I. He didn't give affection in the way that most dads do. I didn't get hugs or anything like that, but he was always there for me. Only once did he tell me he loved me, and that was before he died in 2016. Now, that's really, sadly, an extreme end of things. A dad should be able to tell their kid he loves them and show affection, and there's balance. But your dad was messed up, and I know as a man you understand this, but he hardened you. He toughened you for a tough world, which a lot of dads don't do anymore for their sons. Anyway, as I said, I was 20 and attending college. My friends and I were invited to a small house party off campus when I met the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Well, she wasn't beautiful on the inside. When she walked into the room, I was immediately smitten, but pretend not to notice her right away. Yeah, the typical thing. It's like a smoking hot chick walks in the room, everybody's like, don't look at her, don't look at her. Act cool. She knows that the guys are looking. They fucking know. Look, no, I'm going to play it cool. Look at that ant crawling on the wall. Eventually, I worked my way into conversation with her, and she was having with mutual friends. I introduced myself, and she let me know that her name was Susan. We formed an instant bond, and I wanted to get her alone so we could get to know each other better. So I volunteered to go on a beer run. Then I asked Susan if she wanted to accompany me, and she agreed. That's a good sign. Funny enough, we arrived at the gas station where I admitted to her that I wasn't quite 21 years old yet. She then laughed and said that she was only 19. So I ended up talking all night in my car without returning to the party. That was the beginning of our relationship. Dude, people were counting on you for beer. Beer is your life in college. And people are sitting around like, where the fuck is what's his name? The first 4 years was great. We had great sex and were inseparable. We did everything together, camping, horseback riding, fishing, etc. So she was kind of a tomboy. Or at least she could open up to adventures. She even helped me prepare venison. Oh, she is a tomboy. Obviously, we did things that women do too, such as shopping, but I'm simply stating that what I enjoy doing the most. Shopping? Like, you just went to the mall for the sake of going to the mall without any clear purpose of what you want to buy? Yeah, no. Uh, this was my first long-term relationship, and I was sure that she was the one. Not only that, our respective families adored us. Yep. Whenever every guy will have that very first really serious relationship, whether they're 18, 22, 28, whatever, and they all think that one is the one, and they're perfect, and you make rookie mistakes. One evening it was winter, and we were alone at the cabin that belonged to my family. I got on one knee and proposed. I presented her with the ring that I secretly bought. I saw her face light up, and when she said, "Yes!" I was on cloud nine. The wedding was planned for the following summer, but then something awful happened. In early spring, my friend Michael and I were out test driving his dad's new Ford Mustang convertible, and I very much approve of that car. We were on a long stretch on highway when an elderly couple missed a stop sign and then T-boned us. The couple died instantly, but because the car struck the passenger side, I was severely injured. In fact, I had no recollection of what happened. I woke in the hospital weeks later. Worse yet, I was unable to move my lower extremities. Holy shit, dude. I mean, that's horrible, but thank God you weren't killed. Apparently, my right leg had been crushed. It was left mangled, bruised, and out of sorts. Needless to say, I was heavily sedated. I was told it would take a lot of time, rehab, and hard work on my behalf if I hoped to walk again. I was devastated. How was I going to wed Susan now? Well, that's the last thing I'd be thinking about. How am I going to wed this chick? I'm more like thinking about how can I ever walk again? I'm sorry that happened, dude. Holy shit. But at least you weren't killed. I wonder what happened to your buddy. I guess your buddy was just banged up, but not like that. The next few days, I was in and out, but I felt Susan's presence and could make out her face from time to time. Although it felt like my world had ended, at least Susan was still in my life. She assured me the wedding was going to take place, so I felt better. But as the date grew closer, Susan visited me less and less. And when she did visit, she would always talk about guys that she worked with. Ron. It was always Ron did this and Ron did that. I didn't think much about it at the time. I was in a pretty bad place mentally. Well, when women start talking about other guys all the time, particularly one, that's a sign. About 2 months before our wedding date, I woke to an envelope on my bedside. It was just a plain brown envelope with my name written on it. I recognized it was Susan's handwriting, so I quickly opened it up only to see the wedding ring I had bought her slip out. My heart sank. There was also a note inside. In it, Susan apologized, saying she couldn't go through with the wedding. She had fallen out of love with me and couldn't bring herself to tell me sooner. For God's sakes. Fucking heartless. She didn't have the decency to tell you at least. Oh, it gets worse, guys. Listen to this. Essentially, she admitted the burden of taking care of me for what could be the next few months or years wasn't something she was comfortable with. So much for sickness and health, all that in the vows. This is why you spend many years, and hopefully you have real life shit happen to you to see their true colors. Now, yeah, a lot of people are going to go through a whole life never getting into an accident, but the point is, when real life comes, then you see people's true colors, how they handle things. Okay, you may have been in the hospital for a little while, in a wheelchair for a while. Eventually, with rehab, you'd be back to normal. Nope, too much for her. Sounds like she was more into this for the freaking wedding and the ceremony, not for you. I tried calling her, but the call went to voicemail. I called her parents, and they could only apologize to me. Susan had blocked me on all social media as well, and in the end, even I started to believe she had done the right thing. I feel ashamed to admit this, but I cried harder in that moment than when my dad passed away a year later. Bro, there's no shame. She was your first love. You were going to marry her. Her behavior up until this point seemed to be, to your knowledge, pretty darn good. Who knows what was going on behind the scenes? But the point is, he couldn't believe it. He really thought she had his back. I'm sorry that happened, man. But there are women out there, in spite of a guy going through hardships, will stand by him. But sadly, that has become rarer and rarer. At least you weren't married. I mean, think about that. I'll spare you the details of my rehab, addiction to pain meds, and relapse. Sadly, what brought me back was learning that my dad had stage 4 lymphoma. Oh my god. You want to talk about when it fucking rains or pours here. Seeing how strong my dad was while facing his impending demise woke me up. In the last days of his life, we grew closer than ever, and on his deathbed, I held his hand. He whispered those 3 words that had eluded us for so long. He said he loved me, and I was the only thing that kept him alive all these years. Your dad went through hell. His experiences in Vietnam he came back a broken man, but he still loved you all along and did what he could in spite of how messed up he was. And he raised you to be the man that you are today. I didn't finish college until I was 31 years old. By then, my leg was better, but my gait had changed somehow, and I still had a limp. I hadn't dated anyone since Susan. I don't blame you. I threw myself into my career. I was a finance major and wound up in healthcare as a business analyst. The pay was great, but I wasn't in the greatest of moods. Susan's betrayal and losing my dad had made me bitter and reclusive. No one can blame you, dude, but that's obviously not who you are, and you have to get past that. Even if it takes a while, you'll get there. Then the unexpected happened. For the most part, I didn't go out much except to my groceries and whatnot. But one of my female cousins was having a barbecue, and she really wanted me to attend. In fact, she came and got me, so reluctantly I went. I got a pushy cousin like that too. That's when I met Nora. Apparently Nora worked with my cousin, and they became friends. Yeah, this wasn't an accident. They're both nurses, oh Lord, in the paternity ward. Something about her caught my attention. I had a feeling that my cousin purposely introduced us, but I didn't fight it. Oh, I guarantee you she had purposely introduced you. Although honestly, I was very nervous. Yeah, something about Nora made it easy to be around her. She was very warm and inviting, and there was a kindness in her voice. I found myself unable to walk away even for a moment, pun intended. When we started talking, it was as if the rest of the world disappeared. Okay, bro, let's not get carried away now. This is the shit that starts guys down a path when they start putting girls on pedestals and all that type of thing and kissing their butt. Nora was a few years younger than me, but we made it work. She too had been deceived by a past lover, so we had that in common. Aha. So this could make her turn into one of these carousel rider gals that uses guys. Or, if she's a kind person, as you say, it messed her up in a way that she now is like, I'm never going to do that to somebody else. And you had that in common. We took things slow in the beginning. Good. But our romance quickly blossomed. We were slow, and then it was quick. It's now been nearly 3 years, and I recently proposed. To my shock and delight, she said yes. Smack! She waited longer than 3 years, damn it. But I wish you the best. But you better watch that nurse, my friend. That's all I'm going to say. Now for the part that everybody's been waiting for. Okay, the grand finale here. As I'm still living in my family home, a few weeks ago, I hear the doorbell ring. I pick up my phone and check the camera, and lo and behold, it's Susan. She was noticeably different. Define noticeably different. Like 30 pounds bigger different? Some tattoos? Blue hair? Please elaborate, friend. But I didn't know it was her right away. Okay, she probably was fatter. Honestly, I froze for a moment, not knowing if I should open the door or just ignore her. She rang again, and I promptly opened the door. Oh, hell yeah, you gotta open the door. You gotta have some fun with this asshole. Susan, I might have had a smirk on my face, and I said, what brings you here? She says, you look well. I thought you might still live here. There was an awkward silence, but I replied, yeah, I'm still here. She looked nervous, took a deep breath, and proceeded with a speech that sounded like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. Oh, I guarantee it's been rehearsed in front of a mirror. She said to him, listen. That's how she starts. After what she did to you, she starts off the freaking prepared speech by saying, listen. That's what my mom used to say when my mom had something to tell me that was important and wasn't asking me for anything. Listen, I know what I did was unforgivable. Bitch, you think? But I realize now that you were always the one for me. You were so kind to me, and I threw it all away. It's just that I wasn't mature enough at the time to handle the idea of you being in a wheelchair for years or the rest of your life. The doctor said I wasn't going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. It was just temporary while I got back to rehab and rehabbing the leg and everything. Obviously, I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. Is there any way we can start over? I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win you back and your trust. I've always and still love you. I don't know how our guy here isn't like busting out laughing. Yeah, I can tell through your actions you love me so much. But given the fact that you have 3 chins there, Susan, and probably you're older, in your 30s, I'm guessing the love life hasn't been too good to you, and now you're coming back to what you consider to be a sure thing. I shook my head and I said, I heard you ran off with someone. What was his name? Ron? I thought maybe you guys would have been married by now. She began crying. He lied to me. He never intended to marry me. He hurt me. Shocker, that's how Chad and Tyrone and Ron roll. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. Dude, if you would have actually been serious about that, I would track you down and smack you. I said, well, you ought to know, I'm engaged to be married soon. I'm sorry things didn't work out for you, but I found someone who will stand by me. I suggest you do the same. If I could share the stunned look on her face, it was priceless. After a brief moment, she simply replied, okay. Goodbye, Susan. And with that, I closed the door. Ha ha ha. Ha ha, asshole. There you go. They always come back. Only if their life is turning into dog shit. I guarantee you that if she had been with Ron, or she was with a guy that she thought was a prize, she would have shut up the door. But you see, our guy, in the lowest of his life, and arguably the lowest of his life, found the strength to get out of bed, do the rehab, work his way back, graduate college, start a career. And yeah, he was a very unhappy hermit for a while, but eventually got out there, met a chick. You can thank your cousin for that. Well, you can thank your cousin if this works out. But if it doesn't work out and she turns out to be like the typical nurses, then don't thank your cousin. But you met a gal who, up to this point, is a good one for you, which we all, please God, let her be a good one for him. He turned his life around. And now this girl's only back because obviously her life is crap. And obviously if this guy was in a wheelchair, do you think she'd be back? No. But she came back because she, in her mind, thought this guy was so in love with me back then, he'll take me back. But the nerve, abandoning him at his lowest point. I'm sure it was stressful for her, seeing him in the bed and hospitalized and all that. That's understandable, but not what she did here. Come on. If you love somebody that much, you're going to find a way. And the doctor said he would get better. He would rehab. He would walk again. But nope. Ron at work was looking pretty darn good at that point. Well, she can have Ron at work. And look how it worked out. So, bro, I'm so sorry what happened to you, but let me tell you, it sure as hell made you strong. And I'm glad you turned things around. Your life is going good. I'm happy for you. But going forward, take all the lessons you've learned through your own experience and the stories learned here to make sure that, to hopefully ensure that you have a good life with, what the hell's the new girl's name? Nora, I think? I hope it goes well with Nora the nurse. I really, really do. But remember all the lessons you've learned and apply them, and hopefully you'll be okay. I'm really, really hoping, fingers crossed here, Nora the nurse is different than some of the other Jezebel nurses out there. One can hope. There you go, guys. Thought you would enjoy this. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.